Welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. The first ever, this is, ladies and gentlemen, you are witnessing the first ever Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with a live studio audience from the Porcupine Freedom Festival in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. I still don't know why they call them the White Mountains. They look incredibly green to me, but the Green Mountains are across the river, and that's where we get our commie neighbors to the left of us, who actually have better gun laws than we do here in the supposed free state of New Hampshire. And yes, I know it's a project. We are working on making New Hampshire a free state, and I'm doing something different that I've not done in a long time. I've not had guests on the show since, I believe, October of last year when I did the format change. So if you've listened to the show for a while, you know that it used to be a live show every Sunday from 3 to 5 p.m., and then I did a format change and went to the thrice weekly 30-minute podcast format, and recording here in the media room of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, I have Ernest Hancock from freedomsphoenix.com and, of course, the Declare Your Independence radio show. Ernie, tell us how we declare our independence. I know you say it all the time. It's really simple, right?
Yeah, no, it's like this. You go, I declare my independence. See how simple it was? No government form! So you get that mindset into the whole generation next, then they're not looking for a permission slip.
Okay, so I want to see if I've got this right. I invoke my freedoms because the Constitution said so.
It's because I freaking say so.
So hold on. I'm going to do it, and I want the audience to do it with me, and I'm going to do it right this time. I declare my independence because I said so. See how easy it was? No forms. So, Ernie, you do a lot. I would say that you're one of the busiest men in liberty activism, liberty media, and you've cut back from when I first met you several years ago. So for people that aren't familiar with Ernest Hancock...
Cut back? Tell my wife that. I cut back on what?
Well, you're not doing the Ron Paul sign waves all the time. You're not making signs out of... You're no longer going to like the sign companies and saying, give me that... Mylar bag or whatever it is.
No, it was the...
So tell us about that, because you're the guy that you created that logo that Russell Brand now claims to have trademarked and created.
Try and stop me!
So when you were doing that, like you were doing this thing, you have a big factory warehouse thing out there in Arizona somewhere. Yeah. And you were going to companies that do, like Clear Channel and some of these other companies that put up the big billboards, and getting their used material. Mm-hmm. And then you had big giant stencils and you were making these signs. So
we went giant as big as 14 by 48. I mean, I tell you where that came from. In the 2006 election cycle, I ran for secretary. I'm a libertarian activist in Arizona. I mean, I don't vote, right, but I run for office all the time. So I run for Congress, run for U.S. Senate against McCain, run for Secretary of State, run. Hello. I'm like, you're still voting? In fact, the logo in 06 was still voting with the V for Vendetta as the V and a question mark.
Nice.
And, in little bitty, character font that was Ernest Hancock running for Secretary of State for the elections. So it was just have fun. But one of the other logos that we had was the Levolution. I had seen that, since the Beatles back in the day or something. So when Russell's going to lay claim, I'm like, yeah, you go on. Everybody was on my butt. Well, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. So, take me to court. That'd be good. So what we did is when Dr. Paul said that, and he's spoken at 3 of our Freedom Summits that we do every year, and so we knew what he was going to say. And they were going to say, yeah, but you're really a libertarian. Yeah, and you're really communist. So, let's talk. So our goal, it never said vote Ron Paul. It was always the Ron Paul evolution, Google Ron Paul, who's Ron Paul, whatever. It was... The entire effort was to keep him at that podium for as long as possible. because I knew they were going to try and get them off. So my thing was just to do that. A lot of people didn't understand, how is it you're not vote? I go, it's a cultural thing. So when people were taking Dr. Paul's advice and trying to get in the party and doing stuff, I never described, you got to go. You got to learn. I've done this myself. I would said the same thing. People talking to me, I go, but it'll be different. And we got technology, and I'm young, and I know better, and whatever. But after a while, that's where the joke comes in. What's the difference between an anarchist and a libertarian?
6 months of reading good books.
Yeah, at least 2 or 3 election cycles, and you get it. So there's been a lot of pressure for me to get behind his son, Rand Paul. And I'm just,
Trust me, Charlie Brown, I'm not going to move the football this time.
Right, so we have stickers on. I kind of caught some heat from, people want to play.
Oh, I love it. I want the final panel where Lucy says, trust me, it'll be different this time. I want that as my Facebook profile picture.
Be my guest. As long as Charles Schultz says it's okay. Because I'm not a big IP guy. So what happened was we, as young activists, I'm 54. I was born in 61, graduated high school 79, so I got gray in my beard. But
you literally could be my father, and it would not be weird.
Yeah, as with a lot of people here. And but I had gone through the same awakening process when there wasn't anybody. I mean, it started off just me and my wife. I go, man, there's got to be somebody knowing what the hell's going on. And it was these libertarian, librarian, whatever and as time went on, it became very clear that the non-aggression principle and people that were understanding what's really going on. And there's so many people that added to the tapestry, and being able to communicate it through podcasts like this, through the internet, through, even social media or your web page. So we could see what was coming. In 96, we made the decision, had Freedom's Phoenix formulated in my mind what I wanted to do, but video hadn't hit the internet. Heck, it was taking a half hour to download a JPEG. I mean, and I'm downloading. So now it's
depixelizing the naked pictures of women.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I tried to do, it was some missile system or something. I remember, that'd be cool. Let's see that. So that was taking a while. But then you start to understand, memory and bandwidth and all this other stuff. But I go, well, when video hits, we'll launch Freedom's Phoenix. Well, YouTube hit in 05. Our first post, we went beta in September of 05. So this fall will be 10 years. And we have expanded it to include a magazine. We have the newspapers here, we put out. We print a newspaper. We used to do that in the 90s. The last one we did before this one was in 04, summer of 04. So 10 years later, we're like, here we go. But we've been able to make the newspaper interactive with the internet because all the hyperlinks are QR codes. All the ads are QR codes. So you're sitting there at the diner, and it's interactive. You put your Bluetooth in, and you're just watching videos that's in. The technology is different, and we have a funding center and a marketplace, and all this stuff has been, and the show, of course. So all this stuff has been done as a tool for everybody to use. We had like the social media thing going on before there was social media. So it's been a very interesting walk through all this, and all the people have really stepped up, but the man doesn't like it.
And where can people go to find out more about
freedomsphoenix.com?
Thank you very much, Ernie, and you can catch him every Monday through Friday. Freedom's Phoenix, declare your independence. There's more when we come back from the Porcupine Freedom Festival.
Yeah! Why do they hate us? Is libertarianism compatible with Islam? Davi Barker answers these questions and more in Voluntary Islam and Other Essays. He advances the voluntarist cause with analysis of the confluence of values between Islam and libertarianism, as well as contemporary movements from the Tea Party to the Arab Spring. Voluntary Islam by Davi Barker is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs offers premium publicity campaigns designed to facilitate an organization's adoption of Bitcoin as a payment system. Bitcoin Not Bombs is fully committed to being the hub of the nonprofit sector of the Bitcoin economy, maximizing the potential cross-promotion of all our clients and commercial partners. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com. You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates, like Namecheap, ExpressCoin, and Amazon, at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. Or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. That's shop.fppradio.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, live in front of a studio audience for the first time ever at the PorcFest, Porcupine Freedom Festival. And, of course, you can find the show on fppradio.com. That's where you can find all of the archives going back all the way to, I think, 2012. It's been a long time since the show started. And, of course, there's more there at fppradio.com. There's the daily 5-minute newscast that, yes, it's still being produced during PorcFest. And there's also the longest running of the podcast. There's the FPP Freedom Minute. That one is approaching 4 years. And I've got another guest, Randy England from the Freedom Fiends. And apparently you wrote a book a couple years. I did not know that until you mentioned something to Ernie. And you said, well, you had me on your show a couple of years ago to talk about my book. Well, what's the book?
The book is called Free is Beautiful. How are my levels there?
You're fine.
All right. The book is Free is Beautiful, and the subtitle is Why Catholics Should Be Libertarians.
Okay. I'm sure that probably rustled a few jimmies.
Yeah, it still does. And most of the time I spend explaining why not only can they be libertarians, but why aren't they? Because it's I happen to think that Christianity is a great fit to libertarianism. You know, once you decided that you're willing to leave other people alone.
Right. And, you know, as far as my understanding of the scriptures, that's pretty much the golden rule, right? Is do unto others as they've done to you. And then there's also the new commandment that was given to us by Yeshua that says, love one another as I have loved you. So, you know, if you're going out and aggressing against one another, then you're not really loving them. You're not doing unto them how they did to you if they never aggressed against you to begin with.
And more to the point, of course, is the corollary to the golden rule. They call it the silver rule, and that is do not do unto others what you would not have them do unto you, which is even more to our point. So the one is you know, an absolute imperative that under the non-aggression principle we would enforce.
Yes.
And the golden rule is more of a, it's what you ought to do.
Right. And I certainly agree that libertarianism is compatible with not just Christianity, but what I know of Islam. It fits very much. What I know of Buddhism, it seems to be very fitting. What I know of some of the other lesser-known religions, and there's actually going to be sometime during this week, and I don't have a schedule in front of me, but there is going to be a Religions of Liberty panel that I believe is being hosted by Will Coley from Muslims for Liberty. And Davi Barker, I'm not sure if you're familiar with
Davi. Was
Davi's one of your fellow fiends, one of about, what, 13, 14 fiends?
15. I'm
15.
Not sure
a mega baker's dozen, I guess. because Baker's dozen would be 13. Mega Baker, they're just, here's a couple extra. Like, just take them. They're a day old. Just have extra ones. I'm not sure which fiend would be the day old that just gets thrown in with the other 13.
I would be the day old by virtue of my birth date.
But Davi Barker wrote the book Voluntary Islam, where he talks about how Islam is compatible with libertarianism, or rather how libertarianism is compatible with Islam.
Very good book. People should read that.
Yes, and I also think that people should read the Anarcho-Teachings of Yeshua. I have not yet read yours, but I would love to take a copy. I'm not a Catholic, never have been a Catholic, don't plan on ever becoming a Catholic, but I love learning. And that's one of the things that has led me to where I am, is my desire to learn and to know more. And I've talked about this before, where I basically came to the ideas of liberty from trying to find quote-unquote traditional values. Because I always heard people say, we need to get back to traditional values. But nobody could really explain what traditional values were, other than, well, the way things used to be. And how did things used to be? So it was my quest for knowledge in various arenas. It started when I saw a documentary about the drug war. I think it was a thing on the History Channel, like the Untold History of Drugs in America. And it was from that I learned that you could at one time purchase cocaine, heroin, and cannabis from this thing that I'm sure everybody here has purchased out of, called the Sears catalog. I don't even know if the Sears catalog still exists, but I know I used to buy things, like go through Mom and Dad, what do you want for Christmas? Like circled stuff in the book here. So, like everybody's used the Sears catalog. Everybody knows what that is. At one time, you could buy cocaine, heroin, and cannabis out of the Sears catalog. You could buy your needles out of the Sears catalog. And then this wonderful thing called the Food and Drug Administration was created, to where, no, you can't have that unless a doctor says you can. And then it went from that to, there was alcohol prohibition that required a constitutional amendment. And I'm by no means a constitutionalist, but this still baffles me. Why we needed a constitutional amendment to require the prohibition of alcohol, but just somebody, because I said so, to prohibit cannabis and heroin and other substances. How do you ever think about these things? Do you ever ask yourself these questions when you're trying to explain the ideas of liberty?
Yeah, you sure do. I thought it was interesting about the Sears catalog, because not only could you buy those things, you could just about buy anything. You could buy an entire house from the Sears catalog, and they would ship it to your lot, and you could put it up. So I think you could buy, I don't know if you could buy a sailing ship or not, but just about anything
Probably.
at all. And that was simply a free market. If someone was going there to buy it,
A lot freer of a market than what we have now.
Well, there were no drug regulations then. I don't think there were any house regulations. There just were no regulations. You could be born, live 90 years, die, and never have a single interaction with the federal government, as long as you could avoid Abraham Lincoln drafting you.
Or the mailman. Like, the mailman was probably your limited interaction with the federal government.
The point of contact, and that was the one point where they were not, they were giving you a service that you could have gotten better elsewhere, but at least they weren't hurting you with it.
Right. Well, you might get a paper cut on the stamp, or, like have it stick to your tongue or something. But, of course, like any sticker or whatever, you could get a paper cut on. But if that's the limit of the harm that comes from, like interacting with the post office, like, I'll take that. If that's all the harm that would ever come from the federal government, like, I'll take a paper cut for freedom. And that just sounds incredibly weird. Somebody needs to put that on a bumper sticker. I will take a paper cut for freedom, Darryl Perry. So, Randy, where can people find the book? Are you going to be selling during PorcFest?
I do not have the books here, but you can go to freeisbeautiful.com. I have a blog there. You can find out the book there. The book's available on Amazon.com, both Kindle and paperback versions.
freeisbeautiful.com, and when we come back, I will try to answer as many of your questions as I can in 9 minutes. Stay tuned to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
Hi, I'm Darryl W. Perry, and I need your help to give away my newest book. Yes, you heard that right. I want to give away my newest book, A Rebel's Journey. The book describes my path to the ideas of liberty, which began as a search for traditional values. I will only give away the book if I reach my fundraising goal of $2,500.
But wait, there's more!
If you donate, not only can you get the ebook and the audiobook for free, but you can get bonus audio content, including interviews with Jeffrey Tucker, Lynn Ulbricht, Ben Stone, Gardner Goldsmith, and Stephen Kinsella. Or you can get a signed copy of the paperback book and more. Your donation will serve to replace the profits I would have earned through a more traditional publication of the book. The funds raised will allow me to get the book into the hands of more people and to promote the book to a wider audience. To find out more about the book or to donate, visit arebelsjourney.com. When her plush and comfy life suddenly and unexpectedly fell apart, Brooke and her dog Cloud set out to defy the odds. If this is a man's world, as they say, living on the streets is no place for a young woman. One day she awoke in the redwood forest and realized she had become a hobo, and would ultimately come to know exactly what it means to survive. How to Be a Hobo by Brooke Willett is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, the live PorcFest edition, the first of 3 live PorcFest editions. PorcFest is the Porcupine Freedom Festival. If you're not here and you have the ability to get here, then I recommend that you do. If you don't have the ability, well, then you'll see videos and pictures online and think I should have been there, but there's always next year, right? So this is the segment where I'm going to try to answer as many questions as possible. Every Wednesday I normally do an Ask Me Anything where I will literally answer any question. This week I'm doing Rapid Fire AMA, and questions are limited to philosophy and PorcFest. Susanna Nope, who provides a lot of questions to me, will be reading the questions. Susanna, what is question number 1?
The first one is actually signed. It's from Ernie Hancock. Darryl Perry, still voting?
Yes. That was easy. Do I need to explain why I still vote? Like, Ernie did not put it down, but I will go ahead and explain. And as I've said before, there are 2 ways to get me to not vote. If you make it mandatory, compulsory voting, which is what they have in Mexico and a bunch of other countries around the world, to where there is a law that says you must vote. Every person who is eligible to vote must vote. Then I would not vote as an act of civil disobedience. The other way to get me to not vote is to institute what I call quorum voting, to where if voter turnout is below a certain threshold, the election results are void, nobody stays in office, nobody takes office. And then not voting would actually do something. As it is, there have been elections where nobody showed up to vote, and the school board still remained intact. The city council still stayed there. There was still a mayor. Government still existed. They still collected taxes, and people still went to jail and got arrested for horrible things. So right now, not voting does not actually do anything. My writing in none of the above at least requires somebody to read my dissent. My casting a ballot is not consent. It is me expressing my dissent in the only manner that I currently know how that does not land me in jail. Question number 2.
What's missing from Agora Valley in your experience?
Stripper poles. And presumably strippers. I really don't know. I've not wandered through Agora Valley, but I know somebody's just going to take the clip of Darryl saying stripper and put it on a soundboard because that's going to sound hilarious.
Okay.
Question 3.
Which speakers are you looking forward to seeing?
Lynn Ulbrich and Jeffrey Tucker.
What's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Ooh, my favorite ice cream flavor would probably be either blueberry Bastiat or Ruart raspberry.
Okay.
Both of those available from State Rep Ice Cream. Actually, her name is Amanda Bolden. I used to call her Amanda Ice Cream, but now that she's a state rep, I call her State Rep Ice Cream. She has been promoted, and whenever she's not a state rep, she'll go back to just being Amanda Ice Cream.
Okay. Next question it says, totally PorcFest related. How do porcupines have sex without poking each other?
Okay, I'm not sure if you're talking about the people that come here, because this is the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and however two consenting porcupines want to have sex is how they have sex, and generally, there's going to be some poking, at least based on, how that works. But if you're talking about the little creatures that have quills, it's actually fairly interesting. The male porcupine, and if you have children, you might want to, cover their ears for the next 25 seconds. The male porcupine will stand on his hind legs and urinate on the female to soften the quills so that he doesn't get poked. And there might be some human people that consider themselves to be porcupines that do that. I don't know. I'm not involved, so whatever's between consenting adults.
Okay.
Question number, I don't even know. Just ask.
Have you ever bought anything from a kidpreneur at PorcFest?
Yes, and I've hired child labor before, and I will say again, this is one of the reasons that I love live sort of shows, because you say things that totally sound out of context, but it makes a lot of sense. I love child labor. And the reason I say that is because they work so much cheaper than adults, because they don't have to worry about, essentials like buying clothes and buying food and paying rent. So a couple of years ago, I hired some 12-year-old to go pass out bookmarks. And I told them, whoever you give a bookmark to, tell them to come back here. And if they buy a book, then I'll know that they came because of you, and I'll give you 50 cents for every book that somebody buys and they give me a bookmark. And, it was purely commission-based. That's how I love hiring people, is on commission, because if you don't work, you don't get paid. If you goof off, you don't get paid. I'm not paying you hourly to where you decide, I don't want to hand these out. I just want to go run around and play assassin or humans versus zombies. You either get paid for being productive or you don't, and that's why I love child labor, because they work incredibly cheap. Do I have any more questions?
Yes, you do.
Good, because I've got a minute and a half left.
Okay. What was it like growing up in the same town as Mr. Rogers and Arnold Palmer?
I did not actually grow up in the same town as Mr. Rogers and Arnold Palmer. I lived there as an adult. So I grew up, Kathy Reisenwitz is actually from the same town that I am, Birmingham, Alabama. And I grew up there, and, it was Birmingham. I don't really know. I am not sure in the context of this question. I don't know how to describe growing up in Birmingham, but it was Birmingham, and now Birmingham is basically the Detroit of Alabama. And I don't mean they have a really horrible football team that will never win a Super Bowl, or a hockey team that will never again win the Stanley Cup. I mean that the unemployment rate is high, the property values are declining, and there's a horribly run government that is running the city into the ground. But I did live in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, which is actually where Rolling Rock Brewery used to be. Mr. Rogers and Arnold Palmer are both from there. And one of the things that annoyed me about Latrobe was so many things named after Arnold Palmer, because he would just write these big, huge checks to various organizations. He wrote checks to the hospitals and got wings named after him. And he was on the board of directors for the Westmoreland County Airport Authority, and then donated $10 million to them, and then voted to name the airport the Arnold Palmer Regional Airport, and was quoted in the local newspaper, quote, this is an exact quote from Arnold Palmer, It's such an honor to have the airport in my hometown named after me. End quote. Yet they named it after you because you gave them $10 million and you built a statue of yourself out front of the airport holding a golf club. Like, that's why it's named the Arnold Palmer Regional Airport, because $10 million and statue, and you were on the board of directors. As far as I'm concerned, the only good thing Arnold Palmer did was invent that drink that I don't drink, where you mix lemonade and sweet tea. In my opinion, that's just making sweet tea even worse. Or maybe it's improving lemonade. I'm not really sure. This has been Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. I'll answer questions again on Wednesday.